Most men are slaves who think they're free. They call it success. They call it ambition. They post pictures of their possessions and call it winning. But Epictetus would look at their lives and see chains. Expensive chains, comfortable chains, but chains nonetheless. You want to know what real wealth looks like. It's not the car. It's not the watch. It's not the house with the view. Real wealth is waking up and realizing that nothing external controls you. Not your boss, not your bills, not your image, not your need for validation, nothing. That's freedom. And freedom is the only thing worth buying. Epictetus knew this better than anyone. He was born a slave, literally. He spent the first part of his life as property, owned by another human being. And yet, he became one of the most influential philosophers in history. Not because he escaped slavery through wealth, but because he understood something that free men with fortunes never grasped. Freedom is not a circumstance. It's a state of mind that you build brick by brick until no external force can touch you. This is not philosophy for monks. This is not abstinence preached by people who never had anything to lose. This is the operating system of someone who had nothing, who understood powerlessness in its rawest form, and who reverse-engineered the architecture of true freedom. So let me be direct. Everything you're buying right now is probably making you less free. Every purchase that doesn't directly increase your control over your time, your choices, your mental state. That's not wealth accumulation. That's freedom liquidation. This is Epictetus on money and control. This is how you buy freedom instead of things. Rule 1. Distinguish what you control from what you don't. Epictetus built his entire philosophy on one distinction. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. And most people spend their entire lives fighting battles they cannot win, trying to control things they will never control, exhausting themselves in a war against reality itself. Your reputation? Not up to you. Other people will think whatever they want, and you cannot force them to see you differently. Your success? Partially up to you, but also dependent on market conditions, timing, competition. Your health? You can influence it, but you cannot guarantee it. Your lifespan? Completely out of your control. So what is up to you? Your choices, your judgments, your responses, your values, your effort, your character. That's it. That's the list. Everything else is external, and external things are not truly yours, no matter how tightly you grip them. Now, here's where this intersects with money in a way most people never understand. Every dollar you spend trying to control external things is a dollar wasted. Every purchase made to manage your reputation, to impress others, to manufacture an image, to force the world to see you a certain way. That's not investment. That's desperation with a credit card. The person who buys the luxury car to signal status is trying to control how others perceive them. But you can't control that. They might see wealth, or they might see insecurity. They might be impressed, or they might not care at all. You've spent $50,000 trying to control a variable that was never in your control to begin with. The person who buys the massive house to feel successful is trying to control their own self-worth through external validation. But self-worth is internal. It's a judgment you make about yourself. No house, no matter how expensive, can make you feel worthy if you don't believe it internally. You've just traded freedom for a mortgage on a feeling you could have chosen for free. This is the trap. Most of modern consumer culture is designed to make you believe that external things can solve internal problems. That you can buy confidence. That you can purchase respect. That you can acquire peace of mind through accumulation. You can't. So here's the shift. Before every purchase, ask yourself, am I buying something that increases my control, or am I buying something to control what I cannot control? Am I purchasing freedom, or am I purchasing the illusion of control? Things that buy freedom, skills that make you more capable, assets that generate passive income, time that you buy back from work, health that extends your years of vitality, relationships that support your growth, things that don't, status symbols, image management, comfort that makes you soft, distractions that numb you, possessions that require constant maintenance. Distinguish what you control from what you don't, then stop spending money on the latter. Rule 2. Every possession is a responsibility you've accepted. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, Epictetus said, but in having few wants. But let me go further. Every possession you own owns a piece of you back. Every object in your life is a responsibility you've voluntarily accepted. And most people are drowning under the weight of things they thought would make them happy. Your car needs insurance, maintenance, parking, cleaning, eventual replacement. Your house needs repairs, utilities, property taxes, landscaping, security. Your wardrobe needs cleaning, storage, periodic updating. Your gadgets need charging, updating, protecting, replacing. Every single thing you own is sending you a bill, consuming your time, demanding your attention. And you chose this. Every purchase is a choice to let something into your life that will require something from you. Most people make this choice unconsciously. They see something they want, they buy it, and they never calculate the total cost of ownership. Not just the price tag, but the ongoing cost, the time cost, the energy cost, the mental space cost. Epictetus understood this. He lived with almost nothing. Not because he couldn't afford more, but because he'd done the math. The person with 100 possessions has 100 responsibilities. The person with 10 has 10. The person with 1 has 1. Who's wealthier? Modern culture has inverted this. We measure wealth by addition when we should measure it by subtraction. The question isn't, how much can I get? It's, how little do I need? Because every item you remove from your life is a burden you're no longer carrying. Every subscription you cancel is a bill you're no longer paying. Every possession you eliminate is time and energy you get back. This is why minimalism isn't about aesthetics. It's about freedom. It's about understanding that every object in your space is taking up space in your mind. You might not consciously think about it, but your brain is tracking it, maintaining a mental inventory, allocating energy to it. The person with a cluttered home has a cluttered mind, not because they're disorganized, but because possessions demand attention, whether you give it consciously or not. So here's the practice. Look at everything you own and ask, does this item provide value greater than its total cost of ownership? Does this thing generate more freedom than it consumes? If the answer is no, if it's just sitting there consuming resources without providing returns, it's not an asset. It's a liability, disguised as a possession. The Stoic doesn't accumulate. He curates. He keeps only what serves him and eliminates everything else. Because he understands that freedom is inversely proportional to the number of things you're responsible for. Every possession is a responsibility. Choose your responsibilities carefully. Rule 3. You don't own anything, you're just borrowing it from time. Epictetus had a practice that would horrify most people. Whenever he received something valuable, whenever he enjoyed something beautiful, he would remind himself, this is not mine. I'm merely borrowing it. It will be taken from me eventually, and that's fine. His favorite cup could break tomorrow. His health could fail next month. His friends could die next year. Everything he had was on loan from fortune, and fortune could recall the loan at any moment. Most people find this depressing. Epictetus found it liberating. Because here's what happens when you truly internalize that nothing is permanent. You stop gripping, you stop clinging. You stop building your identity around things that can be taken from you. And when they are taken, and they will be taken. You're not destroyed. You're not surprised. You're not even particularly bothered, because you never believed you owned them in the first place. This changes everything about how you spend money. The person who thinks their possessions are permanent will overpay to acquire them and panic when they lose them. The person who understands that everything is temporary will invest strategically and release easily. Think about your most expensive possessions: your car, your home, your gadgets, your clothes. In 10 years, most of them will be gone, broken, outdated, replaced, or simply no longer valued. The car will depreciate into nothing. The home will require endless repairs. The gadgets will be obsolete. The clothes will be worn out or out of style. You're not buying permanent things. You're renting them from time. And time charges interest, depreciation, maintenance, replacement costs. You're paying a subscription to own things that were never really yours. So what should you buy instead? Things that appreciate, skills that compound, relationships that deepen, experiences that shape you, memories that last, knowledge that doesn't depreciate, character that strengthens. These are the only possessions that time doesn't take. Everything else is temporary. And once you see it clearly, once you stop pretending that your stuff is permanent, you stop wasting money on illusions and start investing in what actually lasts. Epictetus practiced this constantly. He'd imagine losing everything: his home, his health, his friends, his life. Not to be morbid, but to prepare, to strip away the attachment, to ensure that his sense of self wasn't dependent on anything that could be taken. And because of that, when things were taken, and they were, repeatedly throughout his life, he remained unmoved, free, unbroken. Because he'd never chained his identity to temporary things. You don't own anything. You're borrowing it from time. Spend accordingly. Rule 4. Freedom is expensive, but slavery is more expensive. Here's the paradox that destroys most people. They think freedom is expensive, so they choose slavery because it's affordable. They take the steady paycheck instead of the uncertain opportunity. They stay in the comfortable prison instead of risking the unknown. They choose the predictable cage because the open sky looks too expensive. They're wrong. Slavery is far more expensive than freedom. You're just paying the cost in a currency you don't see until it's too late. Time, health, potential, peace of mind, dignity. The things you didn't do, the person you didn't become, the life you didn't live. That's the cost of slavery, and most people pay it gladly because they can't see the price tag until they're old and it's too late to ask for a refund. Epictetus knew this. Slavery is not just chains and masters. Slavery is any condition where you've surrendered control of your life to something external: your job, your debt, your image, your addictions, your need for approval. If it controls you, you're enslaved to it. And slavery is always more expensive than freedom, because the cost is your life itself. So let's talk real numbers. Freedom is expensive. Starting a business might cost you years of savings. Learning a valuable skill might cost you thousands of hours. Building financial independence might require sacrifice, risk, discomfort, and uncertainty. It's expensive. But what's the alternative? 40 years in a job you hate. 40 years watching the clock, waiting for permission to live, handing over your time in exchange for just enough money to survive until you do it again tomorrow. That's not affordable. That's devastatingly expensive. You're trading your entire existence for security that doesn't even exist. Because here's the truth. The safe path is a myth. The steady job isn't safe. Companies downsize. The pension isn't safe. Systems collapse. The guaranteed future isn't safe. Nothing is guaranteed. You're trading freedom for an illusion of safety. And when the illusion breaks, you'll realize you paid everything for nothing. Epictetus chose differently. He spent everything he had, time, energy, focus, on building internal freedom, on developing his mind, on strengthening his character, on ensuring that no external circumstance could control his mental state. Was it expensive? Absolutely. It cost him comfort, ease, perhaps even relationships. But the return on that investment was freedom that lasted his entire life. So here's the calculation you need to make. What does freedom cost? Time, money, risk, discomfort, uncertainty. What does slavery cost? Your life, your potential, your dignity, your peace, your self-respect. When you do the actual math, freedom is the bargain. Slavery is the scam. Buy freedom, whatever the price. It's cheaper than the alternative. Rule 5. Control your mind, or everything else controls you. Men are disturbed not by things, Epictetus said, but by the views they take of them. This is the ultimate control, the one that makes every other form of control irrelevant. You can control your mind, and if you can control your mind, nothing external can truly hurt you. Most people spend their money trying to control their external environment. They buy noise-canceling headphones because they can't control their reaction to noise. They buy luxury spaces because they can't generate peace. They buy status symbols because they can't generate self-worth without external validation. They're trying to engineer a reality that compensates for their lack of internal control. It never, because no environment is perfect. No possession solves internal chaos. No external thing can give you what you refuse to generate from within. The Stoic approach is the opposite. Control your mind first. Master your reactions, your judgments, your interpretations. Build such a strong internal fortress that external circumstances become irrelevant. And then, only then, do you spend money on external things, not to control your state, but to enhance an already controlled state. Think about anxiety. Most people try to eliminate anxiety by controlling their environment. They avoid situations that make them anxious. They buy comfort. They numb themselves with distractions. They spend thousands trying to engineer a life where anxiety never appears. It's impossible. Anxiety is internal. The trigger might be external, but the reaction is yours. The Stoic trains their mind. They expose themselves to discomfort intentionally. They practice anxiety-inducing situations until the anxiety response weakens. They build such strong mental control that external triggers lose their power. And that's freedom that no amount of money can buy. But it's also freedom that unlocks your money to be used strategically instead of defensively. Here's the shift. Stop spending money to fix your mental state. Start investing time in building mental control. Meditation, journaling, voluntary discomfort, negative visualization, exposure therapy. These cost almost nothing financially, but they generate returns that compound for life. Epictetus practiced this daily. He'd imagine the worst-case scenario. He'd voluntarily go without. He'd expose himself to discomfort. He'd train his mind to remain calm when everything went wrong. And because of that training, because of that internal control, he was free in situations where free men felt imprisoned. You cannot control the market. You cannot control your boss. You cannot control your health. You cannot control other people. But you can control your response to all of it. And that control, that internal mastery, is the foundation of all other freedom. Control your mind, or everything else controls you. Choose wisely. Rule 6. Buy option, not commitment. Every dollar you spend is a vote for a particular future. And most people are voting for a future that locks them in, that removes options, that trades flexibility for short-term comfort. They're buying commitment when they should be buying optionality. What's optionality? It's the ability to change your mind, to pivot, to walk away, to say no, to choose differently tomorrow than you did today. It's freedom in its purest form, and it's the most valuable thing you can purchase. Debt removes optionality. The person with debt cannot walk away from their job, cannot take risks, cannot pursue opportunities that don't immediately generate income. They've traded optionality for immediate consumption, and they're paying interest on that trade for years. Ownership removes optionality. The person who owns a massive house cannot move easily, cannot relocate for opportunities, cannot downsize without taking a loss. They've traded optionality for stability, and when the stability breaks, they realize they're trapped. Long-term commitments remove optionality. The person who signs a 5-year contract, who locks in subscriptions, who agrees to partnerships without exit clauses, they've surrendered their ability to adapt. And in a changing world, inability to adapt is death. Epictetus understood this intuitively. He had no debt. He owned almost nothing. He committed to nothing that he couldn't walk away from tomorrow. Not because he planned to walk away, but because he valued the option. He valued the freedom to change his mind, to respond to new information, to adapt to circumstances. This is how you buy freedom. You buy assets that are liquid. You build skills that are transferable. You create income streams that are portable. You maintain relationships that are flexible. You avoid commitments that lock you into a single path. The person with 10 different income streams has optionality. The person with one job doesn't. The person who can work from anywhere has optionality. The person tied to one location doesn't. The person with savings has optionality. The person living paycheck to paycheck. Every financial decision you make should increase your options, not decrease them. Every commitment you make should have an exit strategy. Every path you choose should have alternatives, because life changes, markets shift, opportunities appear, and the person who's locked into a single path, who's committed everything to one strategy, who has no options left. They're not wealthy no matter how much money they have. They're trapped. Buy optionality. Maintain flexibility. Keep your options open. That's freedom. Rule 7. The price of everything is what you'll trade your life for. No person has the power to have everything they want, Epictetus said. But it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do. In other words, the price of everything is not the dollar amount. It's what you're willing to trade your life for to get it. That car doesn't cost $40,000. It costs the 6 months of your life you'll spend working to pay for it. That vacation doesn't cost $5,000. It costs the 100 hours you'll spend earning that money. That house doesn't cost $500,000. It costs 30 years of mortgage payments, of working jobs you might not love, of saying yes to opportunities you might not want. Most people never calculate this. They see the price tag, not the life cost. They see $30 for a meal, not the hour of their life they traded for it. They see $5 for coffee, not the 15 minutes they just sold. They see the number without understanding that the number represents time, and time represents life, and life is the only thing you actually have. Epictetus would look at modern consumer culture and see a massacre. Millions of people bleeding their lives away, trading their existence for things they don't need. Working jobs they hate to buy stuff they don't want, to impress people they don't like. It's insane. It's slavery. And most people call it normal. So here's the reframe. Before every purchase, calculate the life cost. How many hours of work does this require? How many days of your existence are you trading for this thing? And then ask yourself, is this worth that much of my life? Sometimes the answer is yes. The thing provides value that justifies the life cost. The education that takes years but unlocks decades of capability. The investment that requires sacrifice today but generates freedom tomorrow. the skill development that costs time up front, but compounds forever. But most of the time? Most of the time, the answer is no. Most purchases are not worth the life you're trading for them. The luxury item that provides 5 minutes of pleasure but cost 40 hours of work, that's a terrible trade. The status symbol that impresses no one who matters but costs months of your existence, that's a scam. When you start calculating the life cost of everything, your spending changes dramatically. You stop buying things that aren't worth your life. You start investing in things that multiply your life. You become ruthless about protecting your time because you realize that time is all you're actually spending. The price of everything is what you'll trade your life for. Calculate it honestly, then decide if you want to make the trade. Rule 8. Financial independence is when you stop trading time for money. Epictetus was obsessed with self-sufficiency, not because he hated others, but because dependence is a form of slavery. The person who depends on others for survival has surrendered control. They must please. They must perform. They must comply. They've traded autonomy for security. Financial independence is the same principle applied to money. It's not having so much money that you never have to work. It's having enough that you're no longer dependent on trading time for money to survive. Most people never reach this point. They work until they're 65, hoping their retirement savings and social security will cover them. But that's not independence. That's just changing which system controls you. You went from being controlled by an employer to being controlled by a pension fund and government programs. True financial independence is building systems that generate income without your active time investment. Investments, businesses, assets, royalties, anything that works while you sleep. Anything that produces value without consuming your hours. This is the target. Not wealth for wealth's sake, but wealth that buys back your time. Because time is freedom. And as long as you're trading time for money, as long as you need to work to survive, you're not free. You're just a well-compensated slave. Epictetus lived this. He didn't need an employer. He didn't need a patron. He taught philosophy, yes, but he could have stopped at any moment and been fine. He'd built such a simple life, such minimal needs, that financial pressure had no leverage over him. He was free. That's the model. Build income that doesn't require your time. Reduce expenses to a level where that income covers them. And the moment your passive income exceeds your expenses, that's financial independence. That's freedom. That's when you stop being controlled by economic necessity and start living according to choice. This doesn't require millions. It requires strategy. Reduce your needs. Build income streams. Invest in assets. Create systems. And one day, you wake up and realize you don't have to work today, or tomorrow, or ever again unless you want to. That's the goal. Not retirement. Liberation. Financial independence is when you stop trading time for money. Build toward it relentlessly. Rule 9. You're not rich until you can walk away from everything. Epictetus had a thought experiment. He'd ask, what if I lost everything tomorrow? My home, my possessions, my reputation, my friends. Would I be okay? And his answer was always yes, because he'd built a self that didn't depend on any of those things. He'd built internal wealth that couldn't be taken. That's the ultimate wealth. Not having so much that you can't lose it. Having so little attachment that losing it doesn't matter. Being so internally complete that external loss is irrelevant. Most rich people are not wealthy by this standard. They're trapped by their possessions. They can't walk away from their lifestyle. They can't downgrade. They can't simplify. They've built an identity around their stuff, and losing it would destroy them psychologically. They're rich, but they're not free. They're prisoners of their own success. Real wealth is being able to walk away from the job that doesn't serve you, from the relationship that's draining you, from the lifestyle that's killing you, from the identity that's limiting you, from the possessions that own you, from the status that imprisons you. Can you do that? Can you walk away from everything you have right now and be okay? Not happy necessarily, but okay, stable, functional, complete. If the answer is no, you're not wealthy.
You're dependent. And dependence is slavery no matter how expensive it looks. Epictetus trained for this constantly. He'd practice voluntary poverty. He'd imagine losing everything. He'd strip away comfort to ensure he could survive without it.
Not because he wanted to be poor, but because he wanted to be free. And freedom requires knowing that you can survive the loss of everything. This is the final test of wealth. Can you lose it all and still be yourself? Can you start over and be okay? Can you walk away from everything external and still have everything that matters? If yes, you're wealthy. If no, you're still building. You're not rich until you can walk away from everything. Build toward that. Rule 10. The ultimate freedom is not needing freedom from anything. Here's the final truth. The thing that ties everything together. The thing Epictetus spent his entire life teaching. Real freedom is not escaping external control. It's reaching a point where external control is impossible, because nothing external has power over your internal state. You don't need freedom from your job if your job cannot disturb your peace. You don't need freedom from debt if debt cannot disturb your peace. You don't need freedom from poverty if poverty cannot disturb your peace. The ultimate freedom is not needing freedom from anything. It's being so internally complete, so mentally disciplined, so philosophically grounded, that nothing external can touch you. That's what Epictetus achieved. As a slave, he was freer than his master. Because his master was enslaved by desires, fears, attachments, needs. Epictetus had none of those chains. This is not resignation. This is not accepting abuse or injustice. This is building such a strong internal fortress that you can navigate any external circumstance without losing yourself. You can be in slavery and remain free. You can have wealth and remain free. You can lose everything and remain free, because freedom is not circumstantial, it's dispositional. It's a quality of mind that you build through practice, through discipline, through philosophy. And once you have it, nothing can take it away. So yes, buy freedom instead of things. Build passive income. Eliminate debt. Increase optionality. Reduce attachments. All of that is important, but the ultimate goal is this. Build a self that doesn't need any of it. Build internal freedom so complete that external freedom becomes a bonus, not a requirement. That's the ultimate wealth. That's Epictetus's final lesson. That's the code. The ultimate freedom is not needing freedom from anything. Build that, and you'll have everything that matters. You have a choice. Every day, every purchase, every decision. You can buy things, or you can buy freedom.
You can accumulate possessions, or you can eliminate dependencies. You can build an external empire that owns you, or you can build an internal fortress that nothing can breach. Epictetus spent his life as a slave and died freer than most free men will ever be. Because he understood what they didn't, freedom is not given. It's built. Brick by brick.
Choice by choice. Dollar by dollar. Stop buying things. Start buying freedom. And one day, you'll realize you don't even need to buy freedom anymore. Because you already are free. That's the goal. That's the game. That's Epictetus on money and control.